time and space. Everywhere and anywhere, every star that ever was. Where do you want to start?
We've helped Odysseus and the Greeks slaughter thousands of innocent Turkish women and children, and now the Doctor wants to go and score some drugs. I'm Iain.
And I'm Mark, and welcome to All of Time and Space.
And Mark, I understand this is a special episode of All of Time and Space.
Well, I think they're all fairly special.
Well,
but yeah, because this is the story we're going to be covering is a bit on the massive side. We figured we'd do it in two halves. So that does mean for this episode, we won't be doing the listener feedback. That will be coming in the next episode.
Oh, that's a shame. I like hearing Ben from Indiana's bits. They're my favourite.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it?
Yeah.
What?
Hey, you don't have to wait. I'm right here.
Hey!
Hello.
It's Ben Schneider. Hello, Ben.
I missed you, boys. How are you?
How lucky you were passing by at that exact moment.
It's funny, isn't it? Oh, it's a small internet.
I'll tell you what, I'll read out the synopsis from the Target novelisation and we'll have a little clip. Ooh. And when we come back, we'll have a chat about the Daleks Master Plan. Months after the events of Mission to the Unknown, the Doctor and his companions arrive on Kemble and find Mark Corey's message. But it may already be too late for Earth. The Daleks Master Plan has already begun.
Well done, Brett. Well done. You did us out pretty well.
Thanks. I thought you weren't going to make it.
Oh, of course I was. You're far too pessimistic. Now, where's that little box of mine?
This one?
Yes. Ah, splendid, splendid. The Daleks' plans are utterly useless without this.
Why? What did you find out at the council meeting?
They've allied themselves to the rulers of the outer galaxies to take over the universe.
Universe?
Yes, the first objective being Earth, and then the solar system.
And we've got to warn her, and fast. But what about Mavic Chen?
Oh, he's one of them, my friend. By sacrificing the solar system, he hopes to gain more power.
It's impossible.
Oh, no, it isn't. No, it isn't. Therefore, we must get to Earth before him.
But how can we return to Earth? We've already left it.
Yes, I know, my dear, but this is not Earth.
What's the matter with this girl? I mean, where's she from?
Oh, it's all right. She helped us in Troy. She doesn't really understand.
Troy?
Yes.
Well, come on, Doctor. What's so special about that box?
Well, as I said before, my boy, the Daleks' plans are utterly useless without this.
Then we've won!
No. Don't open it, please.
Why not?
It'll burn your eyes. You'll go totally blind. That is a full M of terranium.
What?
Terranium.
That can only be found on the planet Uranus. Full measure will take years to mine.
50 years to be precise. And Mavic Chen has given this to the Daleks to complete one of the most evil weapons ever devised. Their time destructor.
And welcome back. And we are joined once again by the wonderful Ben Schneider. Hey, Ben.
Hey, how's it going, boys?
Good to have you back, my friend.
Oh, thank you. Oh my God. When you told me I could come on this one, I could not wait.
Well, this was kind of as a reward for having made you sit through the Sensorites, wasn't it?
It was sort of the carrot, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a test of a friendship, but luckily we came through it.
Oh, well, I cannot wait.
Before we get on to the matter in hand, I think, Iain, are you...
Yes, I am ready. I'm assuming, Mark, the situation has not changed vis-a-vis the time lash that you've broken?
Yeah, waiting for parts to come in. Same old story.
You haven't tried jiggling the plug or anything?
I did try turning it off and turning it back on again, but it's not really...
kick it?
Yeah, no.
Throw some extra tin foil in it, to make it look more...
tried a bit of WD-40 and that just made things
make it look more
worse.
lashy, Yeah.
Mark, have you done a Control-Alt-Delete yet?
Ooh, no, I must try that next time.
Have you tried throwing a very bored actress into it? That might sort of prime it.
Oh, okay. All right, well, I'll take all that on board and... hopefully that means we'll have it up and running for the next episode.
Yeah.
I'm just thumbing through my, one of those Hayes time-lapse manuals, and I don't know, it's just a thought.
If you could fax me over the exploded view of the constituent parts, that would really help.
Oh yeah, I'll take a picture. Don't worry, Iain.
Marvellous.
Don't worry.
Good. Well, so we can get back to torturing people with my fiendish quizzes in the near future. But before then, it's more of a friendly chat. But nevertheless, Ben, it is time for you to face the Mind Probe.
The what?
The Mind Probe.
The what?
Oh, for fuck's
Getting to know
Who?
Getting to know all about
Who?
That's great. Let's go into it. Ben.
Yes, sir.
Ben. I have some questions for you.
Good.
We're
All
not
right.
doing a quiz, obviously, at the moment. We're just doing a few gentle Doctor Who related questions to kind of remind listeners where you're coming from, what your particular influences are, and favourites and least favourites. So let me ask you firstly, what's your least favourite era of Doctor Who?
My least favorite era of Doctor Who probably is the beginning John Nathan Turner era.
Interesting. Controversial and interesting. Who would you say was your favourite companion?
My favorite companion, classic or new?
Both.
Both. New, I honestly kind of like Bill. I feel I can really relate to her. I am serious. Out of all of the new Who companions, she's the one I kind of felt more akin to. The fish out of water, the not feeling like you really belong. You really looking for somebody to sort of give you guidance. I really liked that. Classic. Oh gosh, it flip flops. Probably Jamie and Zoe.
Oh.
A twofer.
Vintage. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Third question. Which Doctor Who story do you first remember watching?
Robot. Because I watched it when I was a late teenager. So it's very, very clear.
Cool. Okay. And finally, what do you think are the best and the worst monsters the show has produced for us?
The best monster? What is the best monster? I don't know. I oddly like Salamander a lot. Could he be considered a monster? I don't know. He was just very well rounded, Worst monster? Geez, what is the worst monster? I'm tempted to say Sensorites, but just because I'm very familiar with them. The worst monster? Boy, I don't know.
I think
the
Sensorites is a pretty good call, to be fair.
Sensorite, yeah. I'll bet about an hour into this, it's going to occur to me
when
who
you
the absolute worst one
suddenly
was, and I'm going to
bellow the
shout
word
it out.
marker, like really loudly. Okay, cool. Well, that's just given everyone a little bit of a gentle toe in the water and back into the world of Doctor Who. But we're talking about a big special story this time, aren't we?
Aren't we just? Wow. It's an epic in every sense of the word. Ben, do you have recollections of the first time you experienced this?
I do, but before we get into that, I just, this is a massive story. You know, guys, this is, okay, spoiler alert, I'm just going to say it. This is the absolute greatest Doctor Who story ever. And I don't know how you can how can you properly talk about the greatest story ever? How? I'll tell you how. With a song. Oh, Mavic Chen. Sweet Mavic Chen. A total magic Chen. Ha, yeah. See what I did there? All right. Come on, y'all. I really wanna. And that's about as far as I got. So.
Wow. I mean, that deserves a round of applause.
Thank you, guys.
What I like there is you said Mavic Chen almost as often as Mavic Chen says Mavic Chen.
He does. He's so in tune with who he is, man, you know?
And he likes to remind people that literally every time he opens his face.
He is like a modern-day rapper. He is so sure of himself. He's confident, says his name every other line. Oh, gosh, I love it. And oddly...
He reminded me of someone else, you know.
Lady Gaga.
It's kind of handy that he does have that habit, because the only way you can really hear this story is by, listening to it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice to keep having the character, hey, this is Mavic Chen talking. Hey, this is Mavic Chen talking. It really kind of helps you focus, you know?
Yeah, it reminded me of another politician. The name escapes me for the moment, but weird-looking skin, completely obsessed with himself, narcissistic to the nth degree, and sort of working behind the scenes to allow a power from without to take over the place that he's responsible for looking after.
So the word treason and the word coup were both words missing from that carefully worded phrase. Yes, I see what you mean.
You're talking about that guy on TV, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, to get back to the question that you first asked me before I derailed everything, how did I first hear about this? Like I said in the quiz, I came to Doctor Who kind of late in life, and it was during those years before the internet. And the only thing I knew about this show was what was actually being broadcast on my local public TV station. Like, they started with the Tom Baker stories, then they reran the Tom Baker stories, then they went through Davison, Colin Baker, Sylvester, went around to Hartnell, and then up through Pertwee. So the only thing I knew about the show was what I was seeing on TV. There weren't any other fans. There wasn't a culture that was part of my everyday life the way I'm assuming it is in Britain, you know. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was at a bookstore in the city closest to me, and they had one of those Peter Haining books.
Uh-huh.
You know, one of those big coffee table size of books. And I bought it, and I read it over and over and over. It was fascinating because I was finally learning what the hell was going on with this show, what exactly was going on. And it was in the pages of that book, you know, and that's where I got my first sort of taste of received fan wisdom, you know, as in the Gunfighters is the worst story ever, and the Celestial Toymaker is some epic that we will never see again, and blah, you know, which is complete BS, I think. But it was in this book where they first started mentioning this big epic story, the Dalek Master Plan. And it was just amazing to me what I was reading about it, just the fact that it was 12 episodes. It just sounded, I don't know, just something about
really exciting.
It. And the fact that I couldn't see it was just, it was just really, really bugging me, you know? So, fast forward to around 2002, I had kind of gotten out of Doctor Who, but I came back because the DVD started coming out, and I was completely charmed by the DVD features, the extras. I was, maybe charmed is the wrong word. I was totally suckered in, you know. I was like buying them like crazy. And I was on Amazon, I think. I was looking up what was going to be the next one coming out, and I saw this listing for Daleks Master Plan, and I was like, well, that must be a book or something. And I clicked on it, and it was the 5 CD BBC radio release.
Ah, yeah.
And I remember my jaw literally dropped because I had no idea that the soundtracks existed. It was a completely, I don't know. I had never read that. I had never encountered that. And I was kind of shaking. I was like, they actually have the actual TV soundtrack. And I was reading the listing carefully, making sure it wasn't someone who was just reading the novel or something. And it was the actual sounds from the actual TV. And I hit purchase as fast as I could because it just seemed so out of the blue and unexpected. And I remember thinking, my honest to God first thought was, why did they throw away the visual part and keep the audio tapes?
Yeah.
You know, I was literally like, why would the BBC do that? Was it a mistake? And it was only months later that I realized that it was a fan recording. And that's when I started to learn about the missing episodes. Mm-hmm. I became obsessed with them. I got every soundtrack release that happened, but it was Master Plan that really kind of got me back into Doctor Who into a crazy way. Because when I actually listened to it, and I remember I had to paint my basement, and it was going to take me all night. I had set aside this night. I had to paint my basement floor, and the discs came. I had my little boom box, and I just started playing them. And all night I just listened to it, and
I'm waiting for the part in the story where you realise you've painted yourself into a corner, so you have to stand in the corner listening to the entirety of Daleks Master Plan.
I had to listen to Feast of Stephen in a corner, bouncing on one leg because I had to go to the bathroom and I couldn't. But no, it basically, it was, I could not, I mean, it was sort of like that Zen thing where you're doing physical repetitive labor. So we were really able to kind of focus on it. And I don't know if it was the narration or the acting. I could visualize everything, and the story just hung together. I couldn't believe it. For 13 episodes, the tension was building. The plot was amazing. The character, God, the performances in it were amazing, and it just kept building and building. And they stuck the landing. I couldn't believe it. After 13 episodes, it was probably the greatest climax I had ever heard, and that's a very long drawn out answer. I'm sorry, but that was the night where that was it. I was a fan once more. It became my absolute favorite story of all time. I can talk for hours on it. Seriously, it's probably my favorite.
Lucky for us.
it's probably my favorite piece of Doctor Who merchandise. Honestly, it's just I absolutely love this thing. I love this story. And I love you for asking me to come on here and stutter all over the internet and talk about it.
Excellent. Iain, I fear I know what the answer is going to be to this one. What's your first experience of this?
Oh, was yesterday. Watched the whole lot in one go. Suffered through a lot of adverts on the Daily Motion website.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I've seen Kevin Bacon try and sell me a mobile phone about 87 times.
Yeah, but you can't hold that against the production.
Was that not part of the original?
I was very forward thinking if it was.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, no, I binged it all in one go, and this afternoon I've refreshed myself on the first 6 episodes again. That was my first experience.
Because it did get novelised, but I think it was one of the last ones to have a novelisation, wasn't it?
I did read the books when they came out. That would have been about, 89 or... 88 or 89. And obviously, out of context, reading them as a kid, I thought they were, fine. But I kind of forgot about the many intricate subtleties of the heavily nuanced and titanically structured plot. So I did feel like I was coming to this one really quite fresh when I watched it for the first time.
Oh, that's good. I, as I've mentioned a couple of times, got really super obsessed with the missing episodes. A friend had given me a CD with a load of MP3s of the missing stories. And this was one that just really gripped my imagination. And I think, because I had a Peter Haining book, I've still got it on my bookshelf here, The Key to Time. And there's various pictures and references to it in there. So I think it probably captured my imagination from that. But yeah, hearing that soundtrack and then discovering this whole world of recons as well was another kind of revelation. So we have to be super thankful to the person or people who recorded the audio back in the day for us to be able to enjoy it at all.
You know, Mark, this is also how you and I first connected, because I was listening to the Blue Box podcast at the time, and I remember you mentioning that you were listening to this story and you got into the recons.
Yeah. And
I wrote in because I was in the middle of my big recon fest, and we kind of connected through that. So
yeah, that's good. I think this stands out pretty well. And I'm not sure how much they had in the way of telesnaps compared to the earlier seasons.
They had zero. They had no telesnaps. Everything in those recons is Photoshop stuff from other episodes, or having people in loose cannon wearing outfits and then photoshopping on heads of actors. It was a massive undertaking, and
I think when you consider the resources they've got and what they had to work with, I think they've done a pretty decent job of putting it together.
Oh, absolutely. I admire their gall, their chutzpah. I mean, it's like some of the shots are just like every now and then you'll see a thing where Chen is in despair, and he's got his hands over his face, which they got the visual of that from. I want to say episode 5, but in the first episode, there's a picture of Nicholas Courtney doing the exact same thing, and they didn't really have a picture of Nicholas Courtney doing that, so they obviously took a picture of one of themselves with their hands over their face, and then cut it out in Photoshop, put it on there.
Nice.
It's that sort of, nerdy love, that dedication, which is, I don't know, it's the same type of. What is it inside you that makes you love Doctor Who so much? It's that same thing that inspired kids in 1965 to get their whole families to shut up for 20 minutes while I put this tape recorder in front of the TV. It's it's the same obsessive love. And even if some of the recon Photoshop pictures look a little bit, wonky or whatever, I can totally forgive it because it's made with absolute love. So yeah.
No, I have to agree.
And Kevin Bacon selling you a cell phone when you're not looking.
So we start this epic story. I mean, we've had the precursor, the Mission to the Unknown. But
Question.
The start of the story. Ooh, yeah,
I have not heard your Mission to the Unknown episode. What did you guys think of it?
I think we enjoyed it for what it was. It was a bit of a curio, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think I enjoyed it very much indeed, because it was just a breath of fresh air. I kind of questioned why they chose to drop it in and then have 4 weeks in Troy before coming back to that story, and the structure of the season to that point. But and we watched the new version that was made by the students of the University of Mark Help.
Oh, was it Lancaster or Lancashire?
Somewhere like that. And that was hugely exciting, and I think brought a kind of renewed energy to the episode, which I guess, I mean, I'm one of those people, I don't really struggle with watching recons. I come away from it feeling like I've seen the story, even if it's just the same 8 photographs in rotation. So I'm maybe not the kind of typical person that kind of struggles with these things. But yeah, I thought it was wonderful to see it so kind of lovingly remade. And I think we said it was like as it was the pilot for the Terry Nation Dalek series that never ultimately happened.
Yeah.
It's funny because Master Plan, 12 episodes long, it's almost like a little mini TV series, a little mini TV season. And, you mentioned you didn't know why they did Mission to the Unknown and then went to Troy for 4 weeks and then did Master Plan. And instead of it being a usual 6 episodes, it was 12. I don't know either. And it occurred to me, I'm kind of glad I don't know. It's weird. Because this is a missing story, it's obviously not been put out on DVD, so you don't have all those documentaries, all that making of stuff. You don't have the infotext. There's actually very little I know about this, except for some of the accepted legends, like the reason it was 12 is because some higher up at the BBC's mother-in-law liked Daleks, so he made them move it from 6 to 12. And I've heard the story that, the producer and William Hartnell didn't really get on. But other than that, I really don't know much. So in a weird way, when I talk about this story, I'm not talking about all of the behind-the-scenes drama. I'm not talking about, on this day they had to go to this studio because that prop wasn't working. I don't know any of that. It's almost like a pure experience of the actual story on its own. You don't have all this baggage with it. Whenever you think
Just
about it or
enjoy
talk about
is.
it, yeah, it's absolutely pure in a weird way. And I don't know. It's just kind of neat, It's free of fan baggage.
Episode 1 is entitled "The Nightmare Begins," and it is a nightmare because we've lost Vicky. We have our black armbands on as we record this.
Yeah, and that is deeply upsetting. We are going to get a new companion quite soon, so it's not all doom and gloom on that front. But yeah, I did rather sort of keenly feel the loss of the lovely Vicky.
But you do have a new companion.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Well, I know, Ben, you said you don't really sort of have all of the behind-the-scenes stuff, but one thing I do know is that the first thing they shot was Katarina's death scene.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
And that kind of puts doesn't that kind of deflate the whole, they wanted to kill off Katarina because they felt like she wasn't working and they would have to stop and explain everything. I mean, that sort of says to me that they meant to get that she was meant to be temporary,
Yeah.
If that was the first thing. So, and I've never, honestly, I've never liked that whole theory that Katarina was somehow not a good companion because she was primitive. Have you guys ever heard that thing?
Yeah, it gets said the rounds quite a lot.
Because when you think about it, she's only in the show for 3 episodes. So in a weird way, it's like she didn't even get a full opening story. And so, of course, in her very first story, she's going to be questioning things because she doesn't understand anything. But as you're watching these episodes, you actually see her learning and catching on. Like in that first episode, she is clueless about what tablets are. She even has trouble. She even has trouble saying it. And then by episode 2, she's telling the doctor that she gave Stephen tablets, and the way she says it with authority. I mean, she has actually learned. She's accepted. She's adapting. It's really I really like this character, honestly. And so again, I think it's one of those received fan wisdoms that Katarina was crap. They had to slow down the plot to explain it to her. I don't see that happening, honestly.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think by, if she'd stayed in the show, I think by the end of this story, they would have done what they did with people like Victoria or Jamie and just kind of glossed over the fact that they weren't from the swinging 60s and just sent them forward as a standard companion. They obviously, I think, took her on. And assuming this story was the next thing in production after her first story, they clearly must have taken her on with the intention of killing her off.
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and again, I don't know. And in a weird way, I kind of like not knowing because I can analyze the plot reasons instead of the behind-the-scenes drama stuff. So, I don't know. It's kind of a neat treat to not have to be boggled down by infotext.
So given they've brought this character into the show and made her a companion with the express intention of killing her off, why do it at the start of episode 4 rather than at the climax of an episode? And why not at the climax of the story? Why not go for a really dramatic moment to do it? Because it feels kind of like her contract was for 4 episodes, and the second that the clock reached 4 episodes, the producer said, "Right, killer, airlock, now!"
Yeah, because the end of Mythmakers, she's only in the last part of the last episode.
Like the last 2 minutes, I think.
Yeah. And again, I don't know why, but in speaking in terms of the actual show, I think it's interesting because, and I'm sorry, we're jumping off of episode 1, we're jumping right into 3, into Devil's Planet and all that. But it's kind of cool in a weird way that it doesn't happen at the end of an episode. I think it's cool because it breaks the established pattern that Doctor Who has had up until this point. Like, think about it. At the end of episode 3, she goes to shut the door. She starts screaming because the caveman criminal has, grabbed her, pulled her in, and they're all panicking, and he's threatening to kill her and all that. And, credits. It's a typical cliffhanger. In a way, like, okay, how many cliffhangers have we had before this where Susan or Vicky or even Barbara screams because some terrible something that is surely going to happen to them, and then the credits roll, only to have them safely get out of it next week as soon as the show starts? I mean, the cliffhanger to the end of episode 3 was set up in the definite Doctor Who pattern up to this point. And I'm sure everybody watching didn't think twice about it because they're like, oh, Doctor Who always has the girl screams, credit rolls, girl is saved, wash and repeat. So how big of a gut punch was it then to viewers to where that actually did not happen? It's like for the very first time, oh, the girl wasn't saved from the cliffhanger from the previous week. I mean, that is some brave stuff going on, I think.
It is, and it's some pretty challenging stuff for the BBC in the mid-60s making a children's programme to think, right, this is getting a bit samey, this is getting a bit tame, let's have some death.
And they don't stop there. I mean, I know, again, we're jumping around a bit, but yeah, it's the death count really is racking up quite a lot.
Yeah.
Like, okay, and are we going to jump around, or do you want to go in chronological order?
I don't really mind.
Okay, all right. Talking about received fan wisdom again. When I started reading that Peter Haining book back in the early 90s, I remembered they placed so much emphasis on the 3 companions who die in the show. Katarina, Sarah, spoiler, and Adric, spoiler. And it's almost like they're this holy trinity of 3 companions who died. There's this big reverence to it. But I completely forgot that Brett Vyrne, Nicholas Courtney, dies in the exact same episode that Katarina does.
Yeah.
And by all the standards and metrics and measurements, Brett Vyrne should be considered a companion. But he's not. I had never even heard of the guy until I actually listened to the soundtrack for the first time in 2002. And it's really shocking to me. Okay, why do you guys think Brett was not considered companion status back in those days?
He never travelled in the TARDIS, did he?
Well, he got stuck in the electric chair in the TARDIS, which is more than ever happened. Which is more than ever happened to Liz Shaw. Liz Shaw never went in the TARDIS, and she gets granted companion status.
That's true. You've put your finger on a major inconsistency in Who lore there. Yeah,
and it can't be because, like, Brett can't be denied companion status because he kills people, because the second scene that we have with Sarah Kingdom, she is shooting somebody in the face. She's shooting Brett. She's actually killing Brett. And, so it can't be that because Brett kills people, he doesn't get companion status. I mean, hello, Leela. Leela kills all kinds of people, and she's still a companion. And, sure, Sarah travels in the TARDIS, so I guess she gets companion status, but by that logic, Eldrad from Hand of Fear should be granted companion status because he got to travel. So I don't know. It's just strange how Katarina, she is canonized as a companion. She gets to be in all of the photo montages and memorials and stuff. But Brett, Nicholas Courtney, does not get the same stuff. And I would argue that he has just as big a role as Sarah does in this.
Maybe it's because they don't want to draw attention to the fact it's the same actor as gets to play the Brigadier later down
so
the
I was
line.
going to say, if he hadn't gone on to be the Brigadier, then maybe he would have been mentioned in more companion-y terms. But because, as you say, they didn't want to sort of draw attention to that fact, that they sort of airbrushed Brett out of existence.
Which is sad, because I think he's awesome.
I think he's great in this.
And
I think it's very much the same performance he gives when he is cast as the Brigadier, to be fair. He seems to only have one real mode, and that's sort of slightly pissed off chippy acting.
I hate to be negative, but no, I disagree.
That's what you
Fight,
hear.
because fight.
Because, okay, in that very first episode, Nightmare Begins, whenever we meet Brett, he's pissed off because he's sending out his distress signal, and he's like, he's going to have everyone at Space Headquarters canceled because they're screwing around watching Space CNN and not really paying attention to the flashing lights, But if you're listening to it, he's making jokes. Like whenever the Kurt Gantry character is saying that they haven't found Mark Corey, maybe he ran into one of the Varga plants. Brett says, well, we haven't really seen any Vargas that look like Mark. And that's something that the Brigadier would never do. He would never be that flippant. So
Chap with
I think
rings 5 rounds rapid.
But he said that seriously, man. He said that with conviction, man. So
Courtney conviction, which is never quite as...
Courtney is great, by the way.
He is great.
One of the reasons I like this story so much, the whole 13 episodes, is the acting is so good. Like the Kurt Gantry guy, he's only in for a couple of scenes. He's acting his socks off.
I'm guessing he won't be that well known to you, Ben, but to particularly people of mine and Ian's age in the UK, he's a chap called Brian Cant.
Was he really? I didn't notice that.
Did you not notice that?
No, I didn't.
No idea who that is. Who is he?
So he was on children's TV a lot in the 70s and 80s on BBC. So he would do sort of preschool TV programs. And he was, really well known for being just a lovely, affable chap who would sort of sing for preschoolers and tell stories and stuff.
I wonder why the clip of his death is one of the few moving clips we have from episode 1. Could it be that Peter Purves personally kept it because he saw this guy as like competition in the children's TV market, and he's like, I don't know. But it's interesting that you say that, because him and Steven never have a scene together, and they went on, I'm assuming, to do kind of similar career paths.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I think because this is Douglas Camfield directing, who's in the world of Doctor Who is regarded very, very highly as one of the best directors in the classic series. But I think he deserves a lot of credit for, as you say, getting that cast together, because it was the director's job to cast those parts, and he does a great job in this one and most of the ones I've seen of his. Oh yeah, and
one of the reasons I love this episode, this story so much, is every episode is different, almost pretty much, and there's so much world building that goes on, and there seems to be a different guest cast every single episode. Rather than having the same cast in it for 12 weeks, it's like whenever there's a minor character in the show, they're acting so well. They're serious. They're not playing like it's just a little throw away part, and they usually only last for like one episode, maybe 2 at the most. I mean, I'm thinking of characters like Carlton, and the awesome space scientists in like episode 5, the Just oh god,
there are some amazing wigs in
Gantry
that episode. I'm like, Jeebus.
But
yeah,
it's just so cool how nearly every episode has a unique guest cast and a unique location even for that one particular episode, and that rarely follows into the following week. And if it does, it's like 2 episodes max. And there's so much time spent on little things that give a real sense of culture, of the world, of the universe. Like, you know, like the argument that the guys are having at Space Command over what's the best space car and whether to watch the space sports game or the space Chen thing. You know, it's so dense. This story is so it packs so much into it every week. And it's never distracting, and I think that's what helps keep the plot moving forward. Sorry, I can go on for weeks, 12 weeks
feels
exactly.
Like they've taken all those elements that we enjoyed from Keys of Marinus, which is another Terry Nation story from season 1, and just expanded it and made it into this massive 12-part epic.
I mean, just think if all 12 episodes were set in the same place, like, say, I don't know, a court, a trial room. How monotonous and boring would that be, man?
Watch your step, Schneider.
I think the Daleks are definitely getting closer to what we tend to think of them as being in this story, because the last time out, when we recorded our episode on the chase, it was getting quite comedic, wasn't it? Whereas I feel like this is they're getting that sort of scheming edge to them, and they're definitely a lot more, in my opinion, they come across as a much more viable villain.
Well, you say that. I feel like the Doctor's already a bit kind of bored of them and not taking them too seriously. He's, you know, I think it's the end of episode, I don't know, 5, where... No, it's not. It's during episode 6, and he's like, right, land the ship, I'll pop out and talk to the Daleks. He's not worried they're going to shoot him. They've stopped sort of exterminating anyone in any troubling manner. And I don't know, he just seems a bit blasé.
I walked away with the exact opposite feeling, man. I'm sorry.
Well, no, that's good, because I know that you guys are both, like, quite big fans of this story, so it is kind of incumbent on me to be bad cop.
No, it's fine. It's really interesting. Someone who has only seen it once hasn't really seen the full thing yet, and that's what you're taking from it. I can point to several moments where Hartnell seems terrified, where he doesn't know what to actually do, and that's another reason I think the story is amazing, because Hartnell is amazing.
Oh, he's so good in this.
He's funny. He's serious. He's depressed. He's scared. He's an actual action hero. He's a kind grandfather. He's a pain in the ass. I mean, he gets to do so much. And especially in that last episode, holy crap, he is acting. He's acting like, oh my God, I love it. And the Daleks, I think that here, and possibly Power of the Daleks, I think is the Daleks at their absolute best, because they're totally cold-blooded, and it isn't like later, like in the John Nathan Turner era, where they're just these robots who are just screaming constantly. I mean, they are just their very presence in certain rooms just creates all of this tension. And then by the end of episode 12, it's flipped, and the Daleks are terrified. It's great. And I swear, some of the best moments for the Daleks in this story are when they are not shouting, when they are stone cold quiet. Like, okay, I'm really jumping ahead, but like in episode 12, whenever Mavic Chen thinks that he's in control and he's losing his mind, and the Daleks are just staring at him. They're not saying a thing. They're just letting him talk. They're doing nothing, and they feel so alien at that moment. And when you compare that to the Eric Sayward brand of Daleks that we're going to get later on, like, I swear, John Nathan Turner always did that thing where he said fans look at the past through rose-colored glasses. That he is full of shit. I'm sorry, because this is miles better than anything he and Eric Sayward ever did. And yeah, sorry.
could we spend a bit of time talking about, because we're kind of covering the earlier episodes of the story.
Didn't mean to jump in there.
Oh, no, that's fine. Could we have a little bit of a chat about Day of Armageddon? Because I think this is a cracking episode.
Isn't it? Oh, freak, it's great.
On Nerdology UK, which is my other podcast we have on the go, which I really do need to get around to recording some episodes for, but something seems to be distracting me from that. I can't think what. We had the guys from Doctor Who who did the colorization of that episode, which I'm dying to see because I'm sure it's going to be amazing. I've seen the trailer. But I just think I think one of the things they said was that this episode's got everything. You know, you've got Kevin Stoney really giving it 110% as Mavic Chen. You've got the all the various alien beings who come together, which is obviously visually quite interesting. You've got the Doctor trying to get in on the act and disguising himself as Zephon, which is great. I love that bit. It's so fun. I think it's just got all the stuff that I really love about 60s Who in it.
Oh, isn't it? How amazing was it when you heard that they actually found that episode? And the first
we kind of take it for granted now, because we went for a while where they just seem to be turning these things up every 5 minutes, it felt like, and now it's been quite a long time.
For the longest time, only episode 5 and episode 10 were the only ones that we still had. And then one day out of the blue, somebody brought back episode 2, and I remember being amazed the first time I saw it at seeing the actual aliens, because up until that point, every episode with them was absolutely gone, and we only had photos from Mission. And just like, isn't it so cool how each one has a silly walk? Each one has their own individual walk. I love that. And do you know the scene where Zephon and Chen are out on the back porch and they're watching the forest burn?
Yeah.
There's one particular moment where the director framed it up where Chen is standing behind some decorative bars.
Yeah.
And he's looking through them and talking to Zephon. And when you think about that and the way that the aliens move, there's all this interesting stuff going on visually that we have no idea about in every other episode. And it's just getting this back and seeing all these interesting little choices that were made really just twist that knife just a little bit more, that we can't see more of this. And oh man, like, okay, here's a good example of this, keeping on Day of Armageddon. There's a scene, and it's a very, very quick Katarina moment. It's when they get Zephon, the seaweed alien wearing the black robe. They jump him. They're taking off his robe.
He needs to get a pedicure, by the way. His
Absolutely.
nails are appalling.
And they're taking off his robe. There's this very quick moment where the camera pans down to see what they're doing, and it goes past Kathy or Katarina, and very quickly, and she's just looking with horror, and she turns her head away. And I had no idea that existed, because we couldn't see it for such a long time. And it's just this tiny little character moment that they thought to put in. Like, they don't have her go into hysterics. They don't take time to explain what the leafy guy is, what an actual alien is. They just do this quick half-second reaction shot, and it tells you all that you need to know. Now, you compare that to something like years from now where Tegan is going to be standing around bored waiting for her next line. It's just, I love the care that was put into this, especially when you think that whenever they were shooting this was never going to be seen again. So they're doing all this. Oh, there's a lot of love in this, man.
One of the things that I thought was quite interesting was exactly how long the Daleks have been working on this master plan, because presumably they would have been working with Mavic Chen for at least 50 years. That's
50 years, yeah.
That's how long it took him
They're in
to
it
mine
for the long
his,
game.
Yeah, was he still leader of whatever he is, ruler of the solar system or whatever 50 years ago? Guardian of the solar system.
Well, he was definitely...
Mavic Chen.
Hi, Mavic Chen. I'm Mavic Chen. Yes, you will remember
boy,
me.
Mavic Chen. Well, he was definitely a president or guardian for at least 25 years, because every now and then he'll mention this peace treaty that was signed in the year 3975, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know. In fact, I don't honestly know if Chen is human. I thought he was an alien for the longest time. I mean, he's got those great big nails, man. That's got to be alien.
That's a very good point.
And that fancy way of writing his notes as well.
Yes, he can't hold a pencil, I've noticed, which makes you wonder if he's
had
really...
nails that long, you wouldn't be able to write either.
Because he's an alien.
Well, we've all been in lockdown. We've all let ourselves go a bit. I mean... But yeah, how is he capable of holding down a major political office if he can't even hold a pencil?
I mean... There is a very obvious joke there from our standpoint, Ian, but I'm not going to go there.
But, like, I remember when I first saw his picture in that Peter Haining book, I assumed that he was a green-skinned alien because of the way he was dressed, and it was a black and white photo, but I just kind of assumed. Because as Uncle Terry says, for some reason, all the monsters are green. And, like, there's a moment, I think in episode 5, when he's doing his big I will be ruler of the universe. And
I, Mavic Chen.
Yes. And he's pointing to the sky. He doesn't use his index finger. He uses his pinky because he's an alien. I'm telling you, man.
Well, I guess it's up to the, your individual interpretation. He doesn't have to be human. He certainly doesn't have the fingernails of a human, but he might have just grown them a little bit and had them painted a lovely white colour because, in 1,900, I can't do the maths, 2,000 years in the future, we're all going to be a bit more gender fluid and non-binary, and, if you want to have a lovely pair of nails, then great. So I'm happy to see him as a kind of weird... this kind of idea of the melting pot, and in 2,000 years you won't be able to identify anyone by sort of geographically because of how they look. Everyone's going to look just so different from where we are as a species now. I don't know if evolution works that quickly. I don't know if we can get to that point in 2,000 years, but I like to think he's a sort of mixture of maybe a Slavic race and maybe an Asian race, something like that.
I don't know. Everything you're saying could be true, or he could be an alien. It's just I don't know, and I love that.
That's the beauty of it. You can make your own mind up.
What I think is that if he can be an alien just because he's got funny fingernails, then Stephen could be an alien because his hair, my lord, that gets really rather boofy, doesn't it?
It should get its own credit, really, shouldn't it?
It should get its own
credits,
little wooden support strut to keep it in place, because you can see Purvis having real trouble holding his head up. So weighed down is he by this hair beast that's mounted his skull.
It's funny. We've been talking a lot about the Doctor, a lot about Katarina, a lot about Chen. We haven't really talked about Stephen. And as I was watching this again for this podcast, it kind of occurred to me, as much as I like Katarina, I don't really like Stephen. And that never really occurred to me.
That's good to hear. So I have some previous with male companions in 60s Doctor Who, but
You may not have realised that because you've never mentioned it before.
No, I tried to keep it out of my reviewing patter. But Stephen is very one note in this story. He's very serious and over-enunciating and very quick. Like in episode 2, he's like, "But that means we've won." And it's like, mate, it's part 2 of a 12-parter. Of course, chill your boots, man. You don't even know what they're doing yet, and he's just so on edge the whole time, and so
I feel like all he does is bitch and complain and argue with the Doctor. He's just...
I mean, I might be reading a bit too much into this, but just give the actor a bit of credit. Maybe he's trying to put over some kind of PTSD from his previous experience with the Daleks and the mechanoids from the chase.
God, I love fan wank. I love it. Yes, keep on going. Riff on it. Come on, go.
Well, it's just, I'm clutching at straws here. That's the best I've got.
Well, since we're talking about episode 2, like episode 2, is where we have the first scene where Steven is fully, conscious, and he's actually, and the first thing he does is start arguing with the doctor about what are they doing? You're doing this wrong. No, we have to do it this way. Blah blah blah. And it just occurred to me that up until this point, Katerina and the doc were getting along great. They were having this great relationship. The doctor obviously cares about her and respects her because he keeps bringing her into his confidences. He's going over the plot with her. And then Brett comes in, and the Brett Katerina doctor is a really good dynamic. And then Steven wakes up, and it's just argue, bitch, moan, complain. And I'm like, There are so many moments going forward where the doctor basically points at Katerina and says, "Why can't you be more like her, where she's just quiet and listening and learning? Shut up and let me do this." And then Brett tells the doctor to shut up.
Oh, yeah, that's a great little standoff, isn't it? But Hartnell comes back.
Yeah.
Oh, you shut up, sir.
Oh, God. Oh, there was a piece of dialogue in episode 2 that I really had to laugh at because the doctor tells Brett that if the Daleks are coming to invade Earth, all they have to do is get out the old DVD of how he fought the Daleks in 2157, whatever, and that will tell you how to defeat the Daleks. History will tell you how to defeat the Daleks. And Brett says, "Who cares about history?" And that is the exact mindset why we have missing episodes in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like the doctor then goes on to say the line, "The Daleks will stop with anything to prevent us," which is one of his more egregious fluffs, which it has to be said by this time are coming pretty thick and fast.
Yeah.
Oh, but you notice nobody, everyone's being a total
they just
pro.
keep straight on.
They just keep on going. Hartnell doesn't slow down. He just powers on through it. He's messing up.
Yeah,
but
I think
such
he's
a
so
pro
good
in this, man. He's such a
really
pro.
Is. We haven't really talked about Sarah. I mean, she is fantastic. Jean Marsh, what an actor.
Mm-hmm.
Just absolutely perfect for the part.
She first comes
Shame
in.
she couldn't stay on, really, but
She first comes in episode, 4, I think? And, they do the whole thing where Carlton and Chen are talking, and they're, Carlton is like, "I'm going to put the mission in the hands of Kingdom." And Chen's like, "Kingdom, hard, efficient, dependable." And of course, you're being set up because it's the 60s, and apparently 60s are sexist, that it's going to be this big buff man coming in. And I love how the first scene with Sarah where she walks in, there's this surprise music hit, as in to say, look, we fooled you. Gotcha.
I've seen Jean Marsh interviewed, and she said the little white box that she had on her belt, which they assumed was for some sort of high-tech equipment, she just used to keep her sandwich in there for when she had her break.
Yeah, it's a sandwich maker. Did she marry John Pertwee? Did I hear that once?
She did, yeah.
Was she married to Pertwee during this episode?
I'm not sure. I mean, I suppose no one's perfect, are they? But otherwise, I just think she's great. Let's be honest, she's not exactly fallen out of the ugly tree, has she? But she's
drop dead gorgeous. She is so kind of poised and sophisticated and glamorous. And I think the first time she appeared, I made a sort of kind of noise. She is absolutely remarkable throughout this story. And obviously, as it would have been broadcast 1 episode a week for 12 weeks, that's about 3 months. That's not a bad innings as a companion. Okay, it's only one story, but it's the second longest story in the history of the show. And I would quite happily cite her as my favourite companion thus far.
Oh, yeah.
They're definitely going for that Avengers kind of vibe, I think.
Isn't it crazy how just cold-blooded she is when she shoots Brett?
Yeah.
I mean, even though it's in a recon or you're listening to the soundtrack, it's so cold and precision like, and just you don't have it, you're gonna come at me, bang, and you're dead. And it's really odd that she. I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm saying here, but
it's very odd that she then goes on in about 2 or 3 episodes' time to admit that he was her brother, and she didn't even, give him the benefit of the doubt or let him talk or let him explain. She just like, orders are orders. Bang, you're dead.
That's siblings for you.
Well, yeah.
It's sort of like Brett has been the companion up to this point, and then they need to do a little handoff. They just like. But yeah, I like how they have different last names. So that means that either Sarah is married and she took someone's name, or Brett married somebody and took that person's name, because it is the future, as you said, Ian. And, but everything's fluid, and
Or they were maybe like only half brother and sister, something like that, maybe. Or maybe it's all done with cloning tanks by that point. We may never know. We will definitely never know. And it doesn't massively matter, I guess. But I thought they set her up as such a ruthless, serious killing machine and follower of orders. And then she softens not softens very quickly, but she's very easily convinced that Stephen and the Doctor are on the level. Just by having Peter Purvis sort of shouting at her for about 10 minutes at the top of episode 6, I think it is.
Oh, that's all he ever does.
Yeah.
I made a note of this really amazing line that Mavic Chen has.
I am Mavic Chen.
I, Mavic Chen. Rapper extraordinaire.
Guardian of the solar system.
It's that scene where he's giving Kingdom or Sarah the instructions, and he's like, and he tells her about the Tyranium, and it's very important that it's not damaged. You have to get this back, and she leaves, and Carlton is impressed that Sarah actually believed Chen. He was like, she believed you completely, and then Chen says, and I'm not going to do this justice. He says, a heroic war cry to apparently peaceful ends is one of the greatest weapons that a politician has. And that is an amazing line. Written in a kids show that they thought would never be broadcast a second time. I mean, that is applicable today. That is applicable in ancient times. A war cry to apparently peaceful ends is one of the greatest weapons that a politician has. And it just shows how so much thought has been put into the characters here, especially Chen, especially Sarah, just the way he can manipulate people just with his words. And people are so enamored of him, and they just do not question him. And which really makes me wonder why Brett's friend is considered a traitor. Did you guys pick up on that? When they crash land and he mentions the Tyranium and they say that he's a traitor and all that. Why is he considered a traitor? How do we know? Chen didn't give him the same line, and I mean they've been putting out wanted posters for Brett Vaughn. Why couldn't he have just been a good citizen who's like? But for some reason, he's a traitor. I don't know. That never really. I think that's a weak part. So, I mean, Sarah Kingdom is instructed to get the Tyranium back. He doesn't mention the Daleks at all. And the friend, what's his name? Daxter. Yeah, he has not heard of the Daleks, and he couldn't believe it whenever they were actually telling him. So how do we know Chen hasn't asked him to recover the core, just like he did with Sarah? There's never any indication from Chen or Carlton that Daxter is part of their inner circle, and yet he gets shot in the face. So I don't know.
I feel like maybe there was just a kind of instruction given to Terry Nation when he was writing this. They said, all right, we got you in for 6, but it's going to be 12 episodes. We want as much death, betrayal, shooting in the face as you can possibly manage. We want indiscriminate killing, left, right and centre. Away you go.
Or maybe they wanted Brett to kill this guy so that they could show that it runs in a family when Sarah finally kills
That's a
him.
good thought. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's that.
Speaking of Terry Nation, are we 100% sure Nation wrote this?
Well, I think absolutely
answers on a postcard.
he wrote the first 5. I mean, the number of his tropes that are, front and centre in the story. You've got
Desperous.
You've got Desperous. You've got Terranium, which is a bit like Tarrant.
A full M.
You've got a special element which is very rare in the universe. Mm-hmm. You've got a jungle planet with a acid pool kind of element to it. Obviously, you've got Daleks. The episode
invisible
6,
creatures called the Vizians.
Yeah,
Vizians, yes.
Episode 6 finishes with "Don't go outside. The air is full of deadly radiation" or whatever. I mean, it's every trick in the Terry Nation toolbox. I think by episode 6 they sort of shunted him out of the way and let Dennis Spooner take over because they wanted it to flow into the sort of second half of the story away from what I think would have been a fairly neat resolution in episode 6. You notice everything comes back together at the midpoint of the story. They're back on Campbell. Mavic Chen's there. The Daleks are there. Yeah. The story could have ended quite happily in a big showdown there and then, but it doesn't because the BBC wanted to extend it. But I think this is Terry Nation very much by numbers, and therefore this could be the kind of tipping point where he starts to maybe phone things in a little more and think a little bit less and just kind of rehash things a little bit more.
I think we're very fortunate that we've got someone of the calibre of Dennis Spooner who's there to pick up the I was going to say pick up the slack. That's probably a bit harsh, but you know what I mean. To carry on from that sort of midway point, because he was really experienced. He'd written a lot of TV by this point.
See, I'm not convinced that Nation completely wrote all of the first 6 episodes. I mean, granted, there is a lot of Terry Nationisms in there. It's just there is a quality that goes from episode 1 all the way through 12, which makes me feel like it was. Spooner had a more active role in it. I mean, maybe Nation just like did various outlines, and Spooner filled in the blanks to get from one point to the next. I mean, when you have lines like that, heroic war cry to apparently peace Flynn's line. I mean, I don't remember Terry Nation scripts ever being this, I don't know, adult in like a weird way. Which is making me think maybe Spooner is more in control of this than we actually think that Nation is.
I suppose
I don't know.
It's possible that Spooner was kind of going back through Nation scripts and kind of tweaking them and adding a bit of his own dialogue to them because he knew he'd be writing the second half of the story. But I feel the way that the master plan is structured, you've got 6 very flowing, contained episodes at the start, and then it does what it does in the second half. And I feel that, Nation did write and did turn in a 6-part story, of which they filmed the first 5 and maybe used his outline for episode 6 before it went off and did a different thing. I don't know what you think, Mark.
Yeah, it's very hard to tell. I mean, you hear all these stories about him, writing something on the back of a napkin and handing it in like 2 weeks before they were meant to start principal filming, but I don't know, it's hard. I'm sure if you go onto YouTube and look up Daleks 6389, they've probably covered it in unbelievable detail because they're brilliant. If you haven't checked it out, I'll try and put a link in the show notes, but they call it Terry Nation Army, and it is so good. They really do go to town, like to the most minute detail. So it's probably all in there. But
I mean, had Dennis Spooner been in charge of the whole story, then that doesn't explain for how Carlton, who is a magnificent character in a Snyder-light kind of role, just doesn't appear again after episode 5, and that I think is what kind of gives me the conviction that Nation was doing his own thing, and then that character.
But that kind of consistently happens, doesn't it? We get introduced to these great characters, and they usually stay around for 1 episode, 2 at the absolute max. That's kind of consistent throughout the whole thing, though.
Well, this guy was in, 3 or 4 episodes, and he was clearly...
He was only in 2. He was in 4 and 5.
I won't have that. Surely he... Because it felt like I was watching that guy for about 6 hours this afternoon, so... But
that is how good that actor was, and how good the lines that he actually had. We only see Carlton for 2 episodes, and he feels like a character that is so rich and fleshed out in a weird way that you rarely get in the 80s, you know?
You really feel, because he's so obviously planning to betray Mavic Chen at the first opportunity, that in Nation's original episode 6 resolution, that would have happened and Carlton would have stepped into the limelight somehow. I think the actor was incredible. When you first meet him, he's got a very low voice, and he manages to make that voice lower and lower and lower until... I'm listening to this thing and I'm feeling the floor shake instead of hearing words coming out of the guy's mouth. He was brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't come across as the typical sniveling underling to the evil character. He isn't like all coward and yes, Lord, I will do it. He actually stands up to Chen. They actually have like an argument.
Yeah.
Like there's a part in episode 5 where Chen's like freaking out. He's like, it's only because of the core that I'm on the plan. And Carlton is like basically telling him to shut up, calm down. Here's what we're gonna do. And there's a point where Chen actually starts to say but, and then Carlton comes back with no buts. This is what we're gonna do. I mean, they're almost like equals.
It's very much a prototype Dominic Cummings, which may not mean anything to you, Ben, but our UK listeners will probably...
to me. No.
Yeah.
Toxic, poisonous, baldy. I feel like that kind of symbiotic relationship of equals did kind of or should have led to him being more than the power behind the throne, but saw himself as very much being actually in charge, and actually he was going to kill off Mavic Chen halfway through part 6 and then betray the Daleks as well. He just felt like the real villain of the original story before it was extended.
You are putting your finger on one of the reasons I love this, why I think this is the greatest Doctor Who story ever. It's so full of stuff. It's so full of really great stuff, just like what you're talking about here with Carlton. I mean, it's not like a throwaway character. There's all this potential that you see in it, and they only use him for 2 episodes. Like,
that's because they're saving him for Big Finish when they do the rest of the Dalek.
The Carlton Chronicles.
Yes,
that's it. Yeah.
But like in that first episode, I thought they were really setting up the girl, what's her name, Lyzan, to be something special.
Yeah, they got a lot of screen time, didn't they?
Yeah.
And then later on, she's actually talking to Chen when she makes the big wanted poster for Brett Vine, and you really kind of feel like they're pushing her to where she's going to be somebody important, like maybe she's going to turn on Chen or see the evil of his ways. But no, after that episode, she's gone forever. It's just this story is so dense. I love it, man. So
I mentioned before how I felt the Daleks had definitely become much more malevolent in this one compared to what we had in The Chase, where they were quite comedic. I think another thing that really pushes the whole mood back towards that direction is the the score as well, because we had Dudley Simpson last time out. Obviously, we've mentioned before that he and Dougie Camfield weren't exactly the best of chums. So because they'd had that falling out, he brings in Tristan Carey to do the soundtrack on this one.
Is that why it's not Dudley Simpson? Oh, because the music in this is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually kind of noticed it didn't have that kind of that goofy Simpson feel. You know, the whole thing just feels serious, and the music is a big part of it. And I didn't really realize that. Tristan Carey, what else has he done? Like other episodes?
He did the soundtrack for the original Dalek serial.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Okay. That's awesome. Well, is
he did quite a
is he
bit,
sort of
didn't he?
the go-to guy whenever Camfield is the director?
Certainly early 60s, he was that kind of very experimental guy. I think he mixed it up a bit, didn't he? He would use a variety of different composers, but very much not use poor old Dudley.
You know, getting back to Chen, I kind of had a thought. There's this part in, I think it was episode 4, where he is wanting to get rid of the delegates, the ones that are standing in the way to be the number 2 person, you know, and the one that he has his sights on is his name is Trantis. He's the guy who in the recon has all the little leeches on his face, you know.
Yeah.
And that's really funny to me because the Loose Cannon Recon was made before episode 2 was found, so all of the visual information for the aliens was from Mission. And in Mission to the Unknown, the actor had those little leech things on his faces, so they just assumed that that's what his costume was. And then it's really kind of shocking to see in episode 2 where they were like, yeah, that leech thing was stupid. Let's just give him some pointy teeth and be done with it.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, you know, Chen is trying to think of a way to get rid of him. So he tells, he sends back a report to the Daleks that the Earth people were believed, or the traitors, the ones who stole the core, they were believed to have come from the 10th galaxy, which is Trantis's galaxy, or something like that. And Trantis is, you know, he like immediately says to the Daleks that this is obviously BS. Chen is just trying to discredit me and undermine the balance of our great galactic council. And it kind of got me thinking once he said that, is Mavic Chen kind of the accidental hero of this story, in the same way that Darth Vader is the accidental hero of the original 3 Star Wars movies? Because think about it. Say if Chen had not come into this council, would the aliens and the Daleks all be on the same page, working as a solid unit? And maybe their combined strengths would be totally unstoppable. But then Chen comes in with all of his jealousy and ambitions and starts to dissolve it. And the delegates are getting shot. And because of that, they aren't as strong. They aren't as cohesive. Plots break up. So in a weird way, Chen is really the hero of this entire story.
More through ineptitude than any kind of desire to do the right thing. But yeah.
Well, I think.
Oh God,
Chen.
Sorry, go
Chen
on.
has a contribution in that he's got access to the terranium that they're mining on Uranus.
Just how much terranium did they get?
They got 1 M of terranium.
A full
M.
A full M.
Now, so we know what Chen's bringing to this kind of axis of evil. But
Mavic Chen will bring the terranium.
An M of terranium that Mavic Chen have made.
I have made such a significant contribution to this great endeavor.
But what are any of the other aliens bringing? I mean, the Daleks are a force capable of conquering any galaxy they want to. They've got a special weapon in mind, so they sort of delegate to Mavic Chen. They say, you know, we need this chemical or whatever. He goes and gets the thing. But these other aliens, they can't even walk in a menacing way.
Now, is it Salation who's the guy with the spots who does the kind of floaty walk.
Yeah.
I mean, he's bringing that to the whole party. That's
he's
pretty good, isn't
bringing,
it?
Prancer size to the galaxy.
Yeah. I think he's a very, very early sort of prototype for Bez from Happy Mondays.
I think you might be right there. But I mean, seriously, what are the Daleks doing? Roping in all these other losers and feeble aliens? A man made out of bracken who wears a black robe. A man.
I'm still very annoyed that the Christmas tree from Mission to the Unknown isn't there.
Yeah.
And it's funny that loose canon didn't realize that they dropped that guy because in the recons they keep putting him in, but he isn't there.
Well, for all we know, he's in like 6 of the episodes. He could be.
If I could theorize, it could be that the Daleks wanted them on the council and thinking that they were going to be part of this as a way for them to not be able to create a defense against the Daleks.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe they were stringing them along.
Yeah.
And that way they weren't noticing that the Daleks were massing and going to attack. So they and then at the last minute they would turn on them, which they obviously would. But I don't know. It's a good point. We don't know. They've been planning this for 50 years. So
at least 50 years, probably 51, because they would have spent the first year designing the time destructor, realised they needed terranium, and then they spent 50 years waiting for someone to dig up an entire M of that. So this plan's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, maybe it was Bayes who designed the council chamber, brought in the chairs. Maybe it was him who assembled all of the furniture. I mean, we don't know. They had 50 years, so such a significant contribution to this great plan. I love this story. I love this story, man. Which episode are we on now, by the way?
Well, I'm wondering because we do seem to have made our way up to around episode 6. So I guess if we start the next episode with the Feast of Stephen, that would kind of give it roughly a half.
That sounds like a good plan. I think we've got to the point where they've duped the Daleks and Mavic Chen. They've given them the false terranium core. And then escape to somewhere where they cannot possibly go outside because the air is full of deadly radiation. Remember that, people. Remember that cliffhanger.
Pollution.
And let's pick up again.
I'm sure it'll all pay off perfectly. Okay,
I'm sure
when we get to the next
it'll
episode,
flow really, really well. Let's pick up the discussion of the Daleks Master Plan with the Feast of Stephen next time.
That sounds like a plan. In fact, it sounds like a master plan.
I, Mavic Chen, have thought of a plan.
Benjamin.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for joining us again for this episode.
Oh, I love it.
I know you don't really exist within the sort of social media sphere. You've obviously got sense and you don't sort of do any of that Twitter or Facebook stuff.
No. It's because I don't know how.
No, that's fine. That's perfectly acceptable. If our listeners want to hear some more of your ramblings, is there anything you can point them towards?
Well, you could look up Digby on YouTube. It was a rock and/or roll band I used to be in. There's a couple videos up there. There may be episodes of Tower of Technobabble out there on the internet somewhere, which is the podcast I used to do for about 5 years. With some episodes featuring Mark Cochran across the ocean. Other than that, I've been on Nerdology a couple of times. If you really want to reach me, I don't know why you would, you can send an email to Mark and he'll send it to me via passenger dolphin across the ocean. So, yeah.
Unless you're a Nigerian prince, and I'm not going to be sending those on.
Oh, there's so many Nigerian princes, man.
Nigerian
prince. Offer you $3 million if you send your credit card to me.
Make a very significant
Nigerian prince, have a full M of terranium. Just give me your bank details and I'll forward it to you immediately.
I will make such a significant contribution to your future finances.
This seems legit. Let's email him back.
Thank you, Ben. Thanks for joining us again. And we shall reconvene to finish off our thoughts on the Daleks Master Plan. And we'll also be getting your listener feedback. And if you want to get in touch with us, we'll be listing all the various ways and means over our end credits. So until next time, when you'll be joining us for some festive fun, I was Mark.
I was Iain.
I'm Ben.
If you'd like to get in touch, you can email us at mailbagofrassilon@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter @TimeEndSpacePod, and you can also find us on Facebook. If you want to leave some audio feedback, there is a link in the show notes. You can use your phone or your computer and leave up to 60 seconds of feedback, or if you're listening via the Anchor website, you can click on the message button and leave your audio. We'd love to hear from you. And thank you to Momo Tempo for providing our theme music.